Hello, these are the video notes for section 1.3, collinearity, betweenness, and assumptions. The learning targets for today are that I can interpret diagrams and I can use the triangle inequality theorem. A couple of these terms you already know, you learned in ALEX. The first is collinearity. That means that they are on the same line. So in this case, A, B, and C are collinear. D, E, and F are not collinear. They are not on the same line. Betweenness, in order to be between, they must be on the same line. So B is between points A, and C, because they are collinear. E is not considered between D and F. Now that's from a geometry perspective. Like somebody might say that E is between D and F, but in a geometry world, when we're talking about something being between, it's first understood that they must be on the same line. All right, the triangle inequality theorem. This is a theorem. Theorems are things that we can prove to be true. The triangle inequality theorem states two things. It states that the third side of any triangle must be, first, less than the sum of the first two sides, and two is greater than the difference. So for instance, for example, if 7 and 4 are two sides to a triangle, the third side, we'll call it X, must be what? Well, you can do 7 minus 4 is 3, and 7 plus 4 is, can you see this? Sorry, you can't see everything. There we go. 7 plus 4 is 11, and so X must be greater than 3 and less than 11. So less than the sum, greater than the difference. Okay, now you can turn to the next page. Congruent marks, they're also called tick marks. You will hear me call them tick marks a lot. If they are the same, if tick marks are the same, then they are congruent. Okay, so, and this is the symbol for congruent. So you've already learned how to name sides and angles in ALEX. So angle A is here. It has one curved tick mark. It is congruent to which angle in the other triangle? Angle D, because it has the one curved tick mark. Angle B has two, and so it is congruent to angle F, and then angle C is congruent to angle E. That's for the angles. If we talk about the sides, then let's pick a side. So if I start with side AB on the left, segment AB, and now it's a segment because it's part of a triangle, so I'm only using the straight line. Notice there's no arrows there. That segment is congruent on the other triangle to segment DF. The order that you put these in doesn't matter. You could call it BA or FD. Segment AC has two tick marks, so it is congruent to segment EF, and segment BC is congruent to segment ED. Okay, and that's what you can assume based on the tick marks. So let's talk about assumptions from diagrams. This is the last thing we're going to go over today. There are things that you can assume and things you can't assume. One thing that you should assume is straight lines and angles. So you can assume straight lines and angles. Angles we're going to use in proofs a lot. We're going to use this fact in proofs a lot. You can assume collinearity. If it looks like it is on the same line, it is on the same line. You can assume betweenness of points. But again, that does have the collinearity requirement, don't forget. You have to be collinear in order to be between. And you can assume relative position. What you cannot assume is right angles. Never. This gets people into lots of trouble. Never, ever, ever assume a right angle. You cannot assume congruency unless you are told or can prove something is congruent. You can't assume it's congruent even if it looks that way. And you cannot assume relative size. Just because something looks bigger than something else, you can't assume that it is. This is size. Sorry. I don't know if you can read that. Okay, so let's just talk about this picture real quick. So number one, we can assume straight lines and angles. So let's talk about the straight angles. Can you name the straight angles for me? The two that I see are this angle, which is angle ACD, and this angle, which is angle BCE. Both of those angles are straight, and you can assume that. The second thing you can assume is collinearity. B, C, and E are collinear, and A, C, and D are collinear. The next thing is betweenness. C is between B and E. And then relative position, B is above A. So because it looks like it's above A, it is above A. And that's what you can assume. All right, so that's it. Those are the notes. So your homework for tonight is the next page. It's a section 1.3 assignment. You need to use your book. It's on textbook pages 20 to 22, numbers 1 to 15, the ones that are in the packet. So look at the next page in the packet, and that's what you should work on next. Thanks, and have a great day.